Right, good afternoon, everyone. Can I welcome you to this afternoon's meeting of Planning Committee B? If I just introduce myself, I'm Dave Merritt, Councillor Merritt, Chair of the committee. On my left is Gareth Arnold, who's the Head of Planning. On my right is Jane Mellor from Democratic Services, who will be recording the minutes for the meeting. And then to her right is Jodie Ingram, who is the lawyer who advises this committee. And on my left at the end of the long table is Councillor Chris Cullick, who is the Vice Chair of the committee. In terms of the usual announcements, can I ask people to make sure any mobiles are switched off or on silent, please? In terms of toilets, they are through the door. If you follow the arrow at the end, we are not expecting a fire alarm. So if there is one, please exit the building the way you came in as promptly and sensibly as possible and congregate outside the front of the building. Some members may be using laptops or smartphones. We do encourage members to use those in preference to having printed papers, not very successfully this afternoon by the look of it. So some members will be looking at their papers on the phone. Ask members to use the microphone, speak into the microphones so that people can properly hear us. In terms of today's business, this is a business meeting held in public. It is not a public meeting. And I'd ask all speakers to be respectful in the language that they use. In terms of how we deal with the individual planning items before us, the arrangement is that first of all, officers will talk through the plans. The committee members can then ask questions on the plans, which should be planning related questions. Officers then provide any update on the report that they have produced. Then we ask any public speakers who have registered for the item to speak, and that will be followed potentially by member questions to the speakers. Finally, we have sorry, not finally. Next, we have members' questions to officers on the report, including any of the updates or issues raised by the public speakers. Finally, we move to a debate, and then we consider the officer recommendation, and we will first of all take a vote on the officer recommendation. If that is not carried, we will then consider any alternative proposals. So I hope that outlines the procedure for this afternoon. So if we then proceed to apologies for absence, we have apologies from Councillors Fenton and Nelson, and the substitutes for them are Councillor Widdowson and Councillor Melly, respectively. Can I ask if there are any declarations of interest on the items that we are discussing? Councillor Moroney.
Thank you, Chair. I've discussed my position with the Director of Governance in that I have relatives at St Olaves, and he's recommended that I mention it under declarations, but that I'm still able to remain and participate.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other declarations, then can I move on to the minutes of the last meeting? Before I ask for your approval, can I flag that there's an error on page 11 in the paragraph just around the middle of the page? Can I suggest that it is amended to say, following debate, the Chair formally proposed the officer recommendation to refuse the application rather than to approve. Okay, with that amendment, is everyone happy to agree the records as the minutes as a correct record? Thank you. We have no registered public speakers for general items relating to planning. We clearly do have some for the individual applications. Could I also just make a note on the minutes? I had an email from the RSPCA following the meeting. They'd obviously watched it online and wished to invite all members of the planning committee to visit the RSPCA site. If they are interested, they'd be happy to show you around. So I pass that on to you. And I can forward the email contact address for anybody who is interested in taking that offer up. Right, plans list. So item 5A, St Olaves School.
Thank you, Chair. This planning application is a proposal for floodlighting columns for the existing artificial pitch at St Peter's School 8 to 13, as now known formally St Olaves. And the pitch was granted planning permission in 2008. It's subject to a planning condition restricting use to 8 p.m. Monday to Fridays, 6 p.m. on Saturdays, and 4 p.m. on Sundays. Site's outside but adjacent to the Clifton Conservation Area. It's in proximity to listed buildings within the school estate, and the closest being the Grade 2 listed former St Olaves School building. The site's not within the Greenbelt. Local plan proposals map shows it as existing open space and as an educational establishment. Presentation on the screen. So let's change the pointer. So this is the artificial pitch, existing artificial pitch in question. This is the Grade 2 listed building. Further orientation, this is Sycamore Terrace. Various later buildings not considered to be of special interest nor listed buildings. And you can just pick out the flood bank here. Conservation area boundary runs along that line. Slightly expanded view, showing it in more context with the river and the wider playing fields within the St Peter's estate and the residential streets stretching down from Clifton towards the river's edge and the railway line, Scarborough railway line there. So as mentioned, the proposal is for 8 floodlighting columns around the existing pitch, 15 meters in height, monopole with two lighting fittings to each column. The detail of the column. Some photographs. So this is a photograph from the flood bank looking east, and you just pick out the towers of the Minster over the tree line. This is the pitch in question, as I said, an existing artificial pitch with existing fencing around it, and these buildings within the St Peter's estate. The second photograph looks to the north, again the pitch in the foreground. Boundary of the site delineated by that hedgerow. Sorry, got that the wrong way. This this is taken from the rear lane behind Sycamore Terrace. So it shows this tree line here is this tree line here. So these are the tennis courts sitting to the front of the listed building, and then the sports hall building there. As part of the application, the applicants commissioned a heritage impact assessment. This considered a number of views across the site towards the Minster. So view one is from the public right of way that runs from the end of Westminster Road, north south down to the river. View one is the existing view. This is with the lighting in place. You see just picking out the columns. And then showing the lighting. View two is from the Riverside Path. This has a close-up view, existing, and then proposed with the lighting columns. One, two, another one behind the tree, and then fourth. And then those columns lit up. This is taken from an image from the lighting assessment. It's not the, as you'll notice, it's not St. Peter's School, but it's an example of light spillage control using modern direction LED lamps. That's it. So that's the end of the presentation. So if members have any questions about those images we've seen.
Councillor Widdowson.
Could you just go back one slide, please? So the bottom right-hand side, from the council's experts, is it? That is what the impact of the lighting would be if you were looking at it. Is that correct?
So this is a report commissioned by the applicant.
Okay.
Architects have produced this on behalf of the school. So it's their lighting assessment. So the columns are they're a visualization. I think the spots of light, there's no attempt to create that halo that you would get underneath the lights. I don't think. That's the visualization of where the lights would fit.
Okay, so it's not what the impact would be. That's just
no. I think in
there is
terms of
at the top of the column.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Melly.
Thank you, Chair. So that directional lighting that you were just showing an example of, is that included in the plans that would be in condition 2 when it's fleshed out, or is it in the Institute of Lighting Professionals guidance in condition 6? Just want to check that it's actually included in the plans.
Good point. The report, I don't think the report would normally be considered in the plans. I would be listed in the plans. So there is an update in front of you, which and a section in the report which refers to
We're getting ahead of
the
ourselves.
Institution of Lighting Professionals guidance note. So that condition requires that the lighting design conforms to that guidance note, and that guidance note design schemes would lead to the design of a scheme such as this to have the light very contained to the pitch with minimal spill beyond the pitch, and reducing as far as is technically feasible sky glow. So anything above, any plume of light above the pitch itself.
Right, any other questions on the plans? We'll come to the report strictly later. Councillor Vassie.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, in paragraph 5.36, there's reference to the city ecologist.
Sorry, we'll come to the report later. This is on the plans. That
Yes, no, I'm
Right, okay.
trying to relate it to the plans. There's a recommendation of the provision of area of tree and other planting next to the proposed pitch. Can officers show us where that planting is meant to be by virtue of looking at the plan? Because I'm not seeing anything in the plans to indicate where those trees and other vegetation would be put.
More useful to use this. So it's he's suggested planting along the perimeter of the hedge to connect these two existing tree belts. On there.
Right, okay, thank you.
Right, if there's no other questions on the plans, then move to the next stage, which is officers to provide an update on the report.
I have an update, which is a proposed revision to planning condition 6 on page 27 of the agenda documents. The lighting, the flood lighting condition missed out the reference to the E2 environmental zone, which is it's explained and set out in the body of the report. So that's just a small amendment to that condition to include that. Secondly, proposed deleting informative 2. So that's regarding biodiversity net gain, pages 28 and 29. The development doesn't impact on a priority habitat and impacts on less than 25 square meters of on-site habitat, because the development is just the base of these floodlight columns. So it's considered de minimis and would be an exemption from the BNG regulations.
Okay, are there any member questions on the update? Councillor Melly.
Yes, I was just wondering if you could explain more about that, please, because in the wording of the informative, it doesn't mention anything about priority habitats or the area. So I was just wondering if you could explain more about why we're being recommended to not include that informative, please. In the report, it just says that the Town and Country Planning Act requires biodiversity net gain plans to be before commencement of development. It doesn't quantify what development in the report.
Yes, there are the regulations include certain exemptions, and because of the size of the development proposal here, it falls below the 25 square meters of habitat to be affected. I think it's only about 8 square meters, the base of the columns, and none of the area of land to be affected is considered to be a priority habitat, which could be ponds, hedgerows, ancient woodland, that sort of thing.
So it's about the area of the actual development, not the area impacted by the development.
No, for biodiversity net gain, it's the area impacted on by the development. Yeah.
So who's done the calculation of how much area would be affected?
The agent has done that calculation.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Widdowson. Councillor Widdowson.
Can I just build on that point? So just for clarity, it's literally the concrete, let's say it's concrete at the bottom of each of the posts, the columns. It's not the light affected. It's not anything else. It's literally the bases of each of the columns.
For the purposes of biodiversity net gain, yes. The ecologist will have considered the impact of lighting on species, but that's not a consideration for biodiversity net gain.
Okay,
That's
if there's no other questions on the update, can we turn to the registered public speakers, who are Jeremy Walker, Tim Ross, Giles Roberts, if you'd like to come up to the table. If you look at the devices in front of you, second along, there is a button called mic. If you press that and it comes green, you should be able to speak through the PA system. You have 3 minutes to address the committee. Do you want a reminder at 2.5 minutes? Yeah, okay. Please feel free to start.
Good afternoon, members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm Jeremy Walker. I'm headmaster of St Peter's School. I'd like to begin by thanking the officers for their support in bringing forward this application, which is recommended for approval. St Peter's has a proud sporting tradition, and the proposal reflects our continued investment in both our pupils and our facilities. The proposal will create more opportunities for both pupils and the wider community to take part in sport, bringing clear health and well-being benefits. Our community use agreement with the council, in place since 2009, will of course continue. The new directional sports lighting will resolve several operational issues. Firstly, for the last 3 years, we've relied on temporary lights in winter, and to my knowledge, we've not received any complaints regarding their use. But the proposed system will perform a much better and significantly reduced light spill and also noise, because we've been using generators to date. Secondly, the temporary lights are themselves quite costly and their functionality is limited, particularly for hockey matches and training. Last Christmas and Easter terms alone, our pupils had to be bussed off site a total of 64 times, meaning 128 separate coach trips on local roads. The new lights will of course significantly reduce that need, cutting traffic and saving over an hour of travel each time. The submission addressed heritage, ecology and light spill in detail. We have committed to extensive tree planting to strengthen the southern boundary and deliver ecological benefits. We've also agreed hours of use with officers in line with the existing community use agreement, striking, we believe, the right balance between protecting our neighbours' amenity and meeting the school's needs. And for context, we anticipate only needing to use these lights for approximately 11 weeks of the year. That's the second half of the Christmas term, from November, 6 weeks in that portion, and then 5 weeks in the first half of the spring term, through to February half term. So in very simple terms, we believe that the proposal brings forward sensitively designed modern lighting that improves opportunities for our pupils, reduces unnecessary traffic and enhances the environment, with safeguards in place to ensure that it's managed responsibly. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Walker. Right, are there any member questions to the applicant? Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Chair. Not so much a question, it was just whether you could reiterate what you said earlier. No complaints, despite you using temporary lights with generators and the additional noise. So there's been no complaints with that.
Yeah, I'll just turn to Giles, who gets the complaints. But so, yeah, fundamentally, the ones we've used have been temporary ones, and they've had more light spill around and outside because of the nature of them. They've been powered by diesel generators, so creating noise and potentially pollution as well. I think it says in the report that the Sycamore Way is about 75 metres away from the perimeter of the pitch, and during that time, we have had no complaints to my knowledge, Giles. It may well be that the trees have formed something of a baffle both for light and sound.
Councillor Melly.
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned that you thought this development would lead to less traffic on the surrounding streets, just because some of the objectives have said that they think it would lead to more traffic because of people driving to the site for matches. I was just wondering if you could elaborate.
So I'll take it to begin with, then pass over to Tim. So in broad terms, in terms of the school use, it will make no difference whatsoever. Our pupils are on site already, and the existing fixtures that we play, people come in from outside of York to come across. We currently use locations such as Vale of York School's AstroTurf just around the corner. So we don't see any increase of traffic due to school use. I wonder if the objection may be a concern about an uptick in community use going forwards. And I know that Tim has got some information relating to that.
Yeah, so as I understand it currently, that one, sorry. Yeah, as I understand it currently, because of the inadequacy in terms of hockey regulations and standards in terms of lighting quality, pupils are currently bused off site to the Vale of York, Manor School and the University of York. So that's where they do their sort of more intensive training and also for hockey matches. So because they can now do this on site, that will remove around about 128 bus trips during those winter months, which would happen at peak times when the kids have to go off and do their training. So in essence, that's a reduction in trips as a result of this, and at peak times. I guess there will be potentially some buses coming in for where you've got matches and opponents from the regions and nationally who get bussed into play against the school. They would arrive at this site, but those trips will be on the roads anyway because they'll be going to where the pitches are hired at the moment.
Chair, if I may, Chair, also, I believe in the report, it also notes that in terms of parking on site, so the objection that you were referring to, I think, is sort of around the local streets and so forth. And I believe it refers to the parking that's available on site. So no need for visitors in the evenings if they were using it to be parking in the local area. And of course, Marygate car park is just a few minutes walk away, and then the railway station is about 7 minutes walk away as well.
Councillor Widdowson.
Could you just, having read the report, could you just tell me what time you're looking for people to be using the facility? Because I've got two different times in my head.
Yes, so did I.
The majority of the time that we need to use the facility, and the reason we're using it at the moment, is around from 3 o'clock till 5, 5:30, 6:30. That is the primary time the school will use it. There may be a little bit later for boarders if they want to play, because at the moment we can't use it at those times because it's too dark. But the main aim is to use it in the late afternoon, early evening.
So the community use, what time is that to?
The community.
This I think refers to the fact there's one timing of 9:30 in the papers, one timing of 8 o'clock. Is that correct? So my understanding is the original submission was put in for 9:30 as a cut-off, but we've agreed use up until 8 p.m.
That's correct. The primary reason for that, because we thought people would want to use it, but we recognise that people are not wanting it to be used at that time. But for the school use, we don't need it to be any later than what it is down on the community use agreement.
Okay. And can you just reiterate what you said earlier about the parking, because that is some of the noise that we have heard through this.
Sorry, could you use your microphone?
It's on.
Oh, right, speak to.
It's on. Right, I'll get it closer. Could you just reiterate about the parking, because you're saying it's going to be a community facility till 8 p.m, which means people will be leaving by 8:30. Yes, Marygate is a stone's throw away, but we know people don't like either paying for parking or walking more, even though it's hockey and it's sport, they don't like walking more than 5 yards. Is there enough room at St Peter's for people to park and walk across?
Just to clarify, so the current community use agreement that's in place for the school relates to this pitch being available for 20 hours during school holidays. So at those points in time, the car parking available at the north of the site will not be used by the school. So there's ample car parking there. Also, you won't have the additional trips associated with the school use.
Are there any other questions to the applicant? Councillor Cullick?
Thank you, Chair. The current temporary lights, I understand, are 8-metre stanchions. The proposal is 15. Why the difference?
This is to do with the required height to actually reduce the light spill. And I think there's some good visuals in the pack, sort of showing quite how narrowly it sits around it. Tim, would you like to just come in on that one?
Yeah, so we did explore having lower lights, but that results in additional light spill more than 2 meters around the pitch itself. So that height allows the lights themselves to be very directional, so they point directly at the pitch. It achieves the luminance required for competitive hockey matches, and it also reduces greatly sky glow, so you don't get this halo effect that you get from some sports lights.
Are there any other questions to the applicants? Councillor Moroney?
Thank you, Chair. Just to be clear, is 15 metres the recommended height from the governing association?
It's a balance between luminance. Some lights on some pitches are 18 meters. You can do lower lights and still achieve the required standard for hockey. But because we were concerned about neighbourly impact and light spill and sky glow, that's why we've gone for that height.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions, can I thank you very much for answering all our questions. And we will now move on to the questions on the report, if I remember correctly. So, member questions to officers on the report, if there are any. No. Right. Okay. Let's move on to the debate then. So, who would like to kick off? Councillor Waters.
Well, just to give it all a bit of a shove, I'd just like to propose the officer recommendation, because the proposal has got to be a better setup than using temporary diesel generator lights. Personally, I don't like the idea of 50-foot high columns, but I understand why they're needed, and it cuts down on light pollution, light spill, call it what you want. I know what I'd read. I think the 50-foot high, 15-metre is just at the start of sort of semi-professional sport, and then as you go up the sporting ladder, you quite often have even higher lights that's required for, you know, the lighting criteria that they're supposed to work under. So as I say, I'll just propose the officer recommendation just to move it on for you, Chair.
Right, so it's debate first before we move to vote. So I'll see if anyone else wishes to speak. Councillor Widdowson.
I think it's a good proposal. I think that we should agree to it. My concern is the parking and what impact that would have. So is there anything that we can suggest? Is there any measurements we can make to ensure that the local residents aren't inadvertently affected by whatever's going to go on during the holidays? If it's not going to happen during school time, because if I've understood it right, it's the community part is only 20 weeks in the week, and it's 20 hours. So it's only in the holidays. So is there a way of putting a measure in place that it's reviewed? Hopefully nothing does happen, because there are car parks around there. People are going for sport, so they might be able to cycle and walk. But just in case it inadvertently affects the local residents, what can we do?
I'll ask Gareth if he'd like to comment on what we can and cannot do in that regard.
We're limited to in some respect, in that this is a condition, this is a planning application just for the lights. So the pitch and the hours of use and the community use agreement is a different planning application. And this planning application we've got in front of us can't vary those any conditions and agreements on those. What I would say is that there is, as as Mr. Ross, the planning agent pointed out, there is parking on site. The streets in the vicinity of a res park, and they're 24/7 res park. So if overspill parking becomes an issue, there's the complaints to the parking service and increased patrols can be undertaken. There's a very small amount of pay and display parking along this area of actually, I don't know what that road name's called. Queen Anne's Road, I guess. But I'm not sure there's anything we can do through this planning application. The community use agreement is something that's encouraged by the local plan and was secured in that previous application. There are restrictions in place on the local streets that can be enforced through parking regulations.
Okay. If Councillor Bassey.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm broadly in support of this. I just have a comment to make about biodiversity. I'm pleased to see that serious consideration has been given to the impact on biodiversity and on bats in particular. Condition 4 refers to, condition 5, bat boxes being placed on trees 3 to 5 metres above ground level. I'm assuming that whatever trees are going to be planted are going to be nowhere near that height for some time. It's not entirely clear, therefore, where these bat boxes are meant to go. I look forward to them being put there, but can there be clarity as to where they will go to ensure that we are doing what I think is intended by the application? And I applaud the determination to protect local species.
The intention is that those are on existing trees.
On existing trees.
There also needs to be a trigger point for those as well. So I'll cover that at the end.
So there needs to be a trigger.
A trigger point for their provision.
For them to be further
Yeah.
provision. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Right. Any Councillor Mello?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, just a question I just thought of. I should have thought of it earlier. Condition 3 is about when the lights need to be turned off, but rather than conditioning the timings in this permission, it relates it to the previous permission. So does that mean does that mean that there hypothetically could be an application to vary condition 3 of the planning permission from 2008, and that would automatically vary the times that the use of these lights would be permitted?
Yes.
What is the reason for that rather than conditioning the timings in this application?
So we didn't require 2 applications to vary two different planning permissions. Yes. So
Just because presumably the reasons behind the conditions in the original permission in 2008 would be different from the reasons to the timing conditions for this application because it's different impacts.
Yes, but in terms of impacts on the lights, that was assessed by our public protection colleagues up to 9:30, which is what the application was for. It was only later when it came to the assessment of the application and writing the report that it was realised they were controlled by a different planning condition. So yeah. So yeah, it would require one. If they wanted to extend the use of the pictures, they'd need to vary the condition of the previous consent. And because of the way the condition on this planning permission, if granted, would be worded, that would automatically go along with it.
Okay. Councillor Orrell.
Yeah, just following up on that, if there was an application to vary the timings, would that go through the normal planning process?
Yeah. As it stands, today, that would be a planning application under section 73 of the Act, with a submission, publicity, and the report written by officers, and I've made under delegated powers if it was called in by members. My understanding is with the proposals for planning committee in the future, there's still call-in powers. So for an application, section 73 application, I don't think it materially changes that, other than the chair and vice chair have the agreement of have to agree to the call-in request.
So under future, sorry, Chair, under future arrangements, it will be up to the chair and vice chair.
Yes, I think so. I think that's the case. On receipt of
Okay. Thank you.
Right, I think that's a debate for another place in due course. Right, if there's no other members want to make any comments on the application, then we can proceed towards a decision. Councillor Waters has moved the officer recommendation, I assume with the appropriate amendments. I'm happy to second that. But can we be clear before we come to a vote as to what we're actually agreeing, and the additional issue you flagged that you need to pick up?
So the recommendation is to approve, and that's subject to the tabled amendment to condition number 6. But also, as explained, we need to vary condition 5 to specify that those bat boxes go on existing trees, and a trigger point for the bat boxes to be to actually be put into place, which I don't believe is included in the archaeologists, the ecologists' recommendation. No, so and that changed delegated to me, I would suggest.
Okay. And there's also the deletion of informative too, yes.
Deletion of
Okay,
informative.
sorry, just before we vote, councillor Melly, you've got a question on the recommendation.
Oh, just that I also think some wording needs adding to condition 2.
To cover the plans? Yes, okay, it would be that one, which is, my eyesight won't allow me to read that, but the floodlighting plan, and then the floodlight elevation plan.
Okay,
Usually it says something about it being in accordance with those plans, etc. Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
that would normally say, yes, but for some reason it's brought through the code rather than the text of the condition, and I didn't spot it.
okay. Are we happy to move to a vote then? Can I see all those in favour of the recommendation? That appears to be unanimous. Thank you very much. That is approved on those terms. Right, let's then move on to item 5B, Hemplands Kids Club. Yes, please feel free to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a planning application by the City of York Council for the erection of a boundary fence of 2.4 meters in height around the on two boundaries of the former Hempland Kids Club on Bad Bargain Lane. So as existing, there is a fence along the eastern boundary with Applefield School. So the proposal is to continue that fence along the northern boundary with Bad Bargain Lane, and then cut back along the edge of the site to so it meets the wall of the building, and then there will be a vehicle gate and excuse me, a pedestrian gate within the existing access. I'll just magnify that so we know what we're looking at. I'm sure members know what a metal mesh fence looks like, but just in case, there it is. Some photographs. So the site, on one side there's the centre at Burnholme, which includes the Explore Centre, Applefield School to the east. This is taken from the north, looking southwest, and then the car park for the sports centre to the rear. Photographs. So here's the building in question. So the fencing would go to the front of that hedge and then terminate where that brick wall is, and then return across the frontage, across that side boundary until it meets the building itself. From the other direction, and that shows the existing fence, which is in effect being extended. As the report says, some crown lifting required for those trees so that the fence can tuck underneath that. And close up. And then a shot showing the existing car park and the entrance to the site. There's no update. That's the end of the presentation. Members, just have any questions about the proposals as shown?
I'm not seeing any. So, and there's no update, so we can then turn to the registered public speaker, Mr. John Webb, who's objecting. If you'd like to come up to the table. The microphone arrangement is the second button from the left is the microphone on and off switch. It goes green when it's on. You have 3 minutes to address the committee, and would you like a reminder at half a minute before the end? Okay. Right, if you'd like to proceed. Ah, right, okay.
Good afternoon. I'm a resident living near to the Kids Club building, and I'd like to object to the fencing and the new pickup bay around the Kids Club building. The entrance to the Kids Club is not an appropriate place for cars to park while dropping off and collecting children. The space is barely large enough for a single car, and the position of the lay-by does not allow children on foot to access a safe pavement either towards the car park or toward the road. The closing time of the Kids Club will clash with the busiest time at the football pitches, where there are a lot of parking problems already, as there are no restrictions on the car park or road and too much car traffic for the area. When I went past yesterday at 6 p.m, every space was full and cars were already parked on the paving. On top of this, the Burnholme Green housing development has not yet been occupied, and with a low number of parking spaces provided, this will pile more pressure on the area. Allowing use of the kids' club entrance as a drop-off zone in a chaotic overcapacity car park will be dangerous for children trying to leave or enter the kids' club. The proposed fence itself is quite out of keeping with the area. Its location along the edge of the footpath will be much higher and closer to public spaces than any other fence in the area, most of which are limited to 1 metre high by normal planning rules. Installing the fence will presumably require removal or reduction of the hedge currently growing there. The application states there is no existing fence, although there is in fact a wooden fence, as in the photos just seen, along the front boundary, which is more in keeping with the area, similar to the fence along the front of Applefield School next door. In summary, I object firstly because of the appearance of the fence, and secondly because of the dangers introduced by the proposed drop-off zone without a traffic management plan in place for the site. As far as I know, the council own all of every aspect of the centre and land, and should take control of the parking in the Burnholme centre and road, making it safe space for young children before any developments are made. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any members' questions on planning issues to the objector? Councillor Melly.
Thank you very much for taking time to come and speak to us. Officers have responded to your comments in the report. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it. Paragraph 5.5. So I was just wondering whether that has alleviated your concerns or not.
I haven't been sent the report, and I checked today and it wasn't online either. I've been passed a copy. I'll just quickly have a look.
It's on page 40. It's paragraph 5.5.
Okay, but the drop-off proposal is that the cars park across the pedestrian gate. So I think my concern was related to children trying to exit and squeeze past a parked car in the drop-off area. And it's quite common for people entering or exiting for football to be driving at quite unsuitably high speeds through that entrance. So I think having a car drop-off zone there with children coming out from behind it would probably not be safe. So I don't think it alleviates my concern.
Sorry for putting you on the spot there a little bit. I didn't realise you hadn't seen it in advance.
No. Are there any other questions to the objector? No. Can I thank you very much, Mr. Webb? And we'll obviously take those your representations into account in the debate we were about to have. But first of all, can I just, I think it might be helpful if Gareth could clarify where the pedestrian gate is, so that we can understand the issue that's been raised.
So the pedestrian gate is just here. So double gates, double vehicle gates, and then the pedestrian gate adjacent to it. So just if I just go back to that. Yeah, that photograph. So the pedestrian gate will be in around about there.
Would a better siting for the gate help to address that issue? And is there any mechanism at this stage where we could secure that?
Well, at the moment, let's just go back to that. Oh, no, so useless photograph, this one. At the moment, there's no footpath into the site. So they're not making they're not, I don't think they're worsening the situation, or making any significantly more dangerous than may exist at the moment. There does appear to be a bit of a desire line that goes from the wrong way. It goes from the bottom of the ramp across and then peters out a little bit. I don't know if members would feel that the gate might actually be better placed at the termination of the ramp, but that would involve then formalising the exit to the site over this area of grass here. I'd never suggest, I wouldn't suggest to members that you put a condition on saying the gate shall be moved, because there may be a very good reason why the gate is where it is, and we haven't explored that.
Might there be, if members feel that's an issue worth pursuing, might it be possible for us to agree the general principle of this application, but delegate the decision to yourself following inquiries about potentially relocating the pedestrian gate?
Yeah, we can certainly talk to the applicant, and if that's something they could do, then they could amend the plans, and we could do that under delegated powers. Okay. If they come back and say that's not possible for whatever reason, we can either have a decision that delegates that discussion to between myself and chair and vice chair, or is something we bring back to committee.
Right, Councillor Widdowson.
Just briefly, I think that'd be really sensible, because if you look at the diagram that you pulled up, you've got double gates to let cars through, and then immediately, and I don't know the age of the kids club children, but if you've got immediately, I don't know whether it's 4-year-olds or 14-year-olds that are equally ditzy, coming straight out into where you've got a parking space. So absolutely, I'm not a planner. I've no idea where it should or shouldn't go, but I'm sure between chair, vice chair and yourself, you can come up with something a little bit more sensible, just to move it, shift it a bit, and put, if it is a desire line, use the desire line. That's why people are walking up and down it. But again, I'm not a planner.
Okay, Councillor Waters.
Well, if you're moving in the direction of deferring this until such matters are discussed, then shouldn't we be asking why the fence can't be put behind the laurel hedge instead of in front of it, to alleviate another concern of Mr. Webb as a neighbour? Seems infinitely sensible to me to put it behind the hedge and hide it a bit. Because with the best will in the world, it's not the most attractive of fencing. And sadly, it's been used extensively around other areas of the site.
Right, so there's a further request there. Can I ask if if we ask the officers to have a look at both of those issues, are members happy to continue to delegate it to the head of planning with the chair, in consultation with the chair and the vice chair, in respect? I mean, we'll do what we can, but at the end of the day, there's no real grounds for refusal of this. Councillor Melly.
I think in order to be able to answer that question, I'd need to have a better understanding of why this has come to committee rather than being a delegated decision.
Because it's an application by the City Council.
Sorry. I mean, usually we have to look at the plans as they are in front of us, and we're talking about quite significant changes and effectively being a different planning application, which is quite unusual. I'm not really sure how that works.
Yep. I'll just ask Gareth to see that we're doing this soundly.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time that members have suggested accepting the principle with subject to relatively small changes and delegating those discussions to officers and ultimately to the chair and vice chair to make that final decision. So we have done it before. Obviously, you're right. We look at what's in front of us, and we make a decision on that. But you're not really the decision that's being suggested or floated isn't significantly changing what's in front of us, I would say.
Okay. Right, Councillor Waters.
So we'd actually be voting on approving this, the principle of the fencing, subject to delegation of XYZ, as we've just mentioned.
Is that the correct formulation?
Yeah, I think so. It's just whether he wants to add a caveat right at the end, as if that can't be agreed, whether it comes back to committee, or whether you're happy for chair and vice chair too.
Well, shall I test the waters?
Well, I was just going to say, I'd be quite happy to move that as a recommendation then.
Yep. Okay, that's moved. I'll second that. Is there? Yes, that it's in consultation with the chair and the vice chair. Councillor Bassey.
And again, to be clear, what we're talking about is putting the fence behind the hedge as part of the conditions where.
Yep, and looking at a slightly different location for the pedestrian gate. Those are the two issues that we're asking officers to look at. Councillor Wilson.
Thanks, Chair. I think it's the bit of having the gate so that the pedestrian access is near where there's a pedestrian route. Any way of moving it so that it's near where you can then walk safely would be the sensible bit. So I just wanted to make sure that was in there.
We've not specified the location. We've just raised the issue. Okay. Right. I think we are near a decision. It's been moved and seconded that we agree the application in principle, but delegate to the head of planning to agree in consultation with the chair and the vice chair after looking at potential for putting the fence at the front behind the hedge and optimum location for the pedestrian gate. Is that okay?
Yeah, I don't think I think should be.
Yeah.
I think that's a sensible way to proceed. I think if we were to, I don't think any of us would be quite comfortable with simply voting this through and approving it. On the other hand, to defer it creates an awful lot more work and inevitably would mean bringing it back to committee, which seems to be overdoing it a little. So I think this is a sensible way forward.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, can I see all those in favour of that motion? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, we are, I think, at the end of the agenda. I have no urgent business other than to thank all the members of Planning Committee B, as I do not think we will be, well, subject to council. We may not be meeting again, and I won't have another opportunity to do that. I know there are some long-standing members of this committee, and you know, you've served the council well in fulfilling our planning functions as a Planning Committee B. Thank you. That concludes